Please listen carefully.
Hi, I'm Paul Fields.
And I'm Dave Guzman.
And welcome to Practical Bass, where each week we pick a topic of interest to you, the working bass player, and we take it apart and look at it from a few different points of view and hopefully give you some wisdom about how to take your gigs and gear to the next level. We are going to launch right in because we are in part 2 of a very special set of episodes for us. We had the good fortune of having Igor Saavedra from Chile. He's a master of the 8-string bass and a really, really great guy. We had him in the Practical Bass studio not too long ago. And so we're going to, I think we're going to plunge right back in. Yeah. And unfortunately, Dave wasn't able to be with us. He was vacationing in sunny
Brooklyn. Doing it.
Awesome.
I was probably shopping for basses there too.
Well, you know, it happens.
Sometimes.
I hear that's a music town, a big music town.
There's a couple of things happening.
That's what I hear.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to take you right into part 2 of this interview with Igor. So we're going to pick it up, I think, right where we left off. We were talking to Igor about how he knew that he wanted to be on the path of being a bass player. So
right.
Let's dive in.
I love it.
At what point did you know that you were looking to do more personally, that you wanted to do more than, say, you know, maybe playing in a conventional way? You wanted to sort of explore a different part of yourself, and that no matter what else happened, that was what you were going to pursue. How did you know? I mean, was that a pow moment too, or was it more gradual?
That very moment.
So right at the beginning, back at age 22.
That day.
So everything else was leading up to you doing this as a solo
but I knew
artist.
I did have to go to the trenches first.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like I didn't know it like consciously, like that day. Okay, I want to be a solo bass artist. It's not. It doesn't. It's more subtle.
Uh-huh.
But I felt in that very moment that I was meant to do that. By the way, that very day was September the 21st, 1987.
You know the exact date.
Well, you know what happened that day?
Become a bassist.
Do you know? Shame on you. Shame. Jaco passed away.
That was Jaco's death.
That very day.
Yeah.
That I found out later. I was very impressed by the metaphysical part. I am not saying that I'm Jaco's reincarnation, but please don't take me wrong.
Right.
I'm just saying that perhaps one molecule, one atom of this genius, when he passed away, maybe, because, by the way, you know that the concept was weather report music. Mm-hmm. It makes it even more like, ooh.
That was what you were watching that day. Okay.
And he was passing away. I didn't know what a bass was.
Yeah.
The name of that instrument, I didn't know, of course, what Jaco or weather report was. It was... Then I found out. So it's very magical to me. It's very meaningful, and maybe one particle of him hit me before going to the cosmos.
That's that is possible. You know, we're all made out of the same stuff that the entire rest of the universe was. So it's not a far stretch.
Or maybe he was that big that I'm not the only guy who can tell the same experience. He has a lot of great molecules available in his.
I'm sure they were in Chile at some point too, right? Weather Report was probably in Chile at some point.
I'm not sure, but for sure they were in Argentina. Yeah, which is very close.
Okay,
but so that subtly, that day I knew that I was gonna develop an identity with my music, or what I was gonna do in a very unconscious way, and slowly I started to understand how.
Yeah.
I will go.
So you maybe didn't know right then, I'm going to make an 8-string bass and here's what I'm going to do. But you did know, I have something inside me that I know I want to express.
I knew that.
I'm not sure exactly what it is, and I'm not sure how exactly to get there, but I know the first step is I got to learn to play this instrument.
I got to have an instrument. I don't have any money, but I have my bicycle that I just made for myself during 6 months. Very nice bike. and I traded because I grabbed the newspaper. Okay, I don't have how much? No, but I have a bike. Oh, they hung up on me many times. But 3 hours after that concert, I had my bass. I had no bike, but I had my bass.
But you knew you could get started now on this thing. That
yes,
was
and I
important
told
to you.
my family that I was quitting, and that was another story.
Do you? So I'm going to switch gears a little bit on you. As you go through this journey, I mean, it sounds very much like you were very driven, starting right at the point that you knew what you wanted to do with your life. Like you weren't exactly sure where it was going to end, but you knew that you needed to get started, and you knew that there was a path that you wanted to walk. Do you ever encounter times when, today, when you sort of hit a wall, like a metaphysical wall, or a time maybe where you're not as active, or you're not feeling as driven? Does that ever happen?
Walls, yes, they are everywhere. They are everywhere, walls, and but they're just walls. Walls are very stupid if you think about them. They are steady. They are there. They don't move. It's very easy to like bypass a wall. It's like I care more about not the walls but the wolves. They sound kind of the same. But
The wolves behind the walls.
the wolves behind the wall. Yeah, you're right. So it's like yes, I found many walls, but that's the challenge, and we can't complain too much because every duty, every work, every activity that a human being develops has them.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say I stay positive, and I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
I always tell my student here, Adam, I'm so lucky. I have bad luck. I have good luck within bad luck. Every time I have some problem or bad luck, something good happens.
There's a silver lining.
It's incredible.
in
I
that
mean,
cloud.
when I arrived here, I had problem with my roaming. It was not working. And in a moment, I was at the airport, and there was a miscommunication with the person that was picking me up, and I had no signal. There was no Wi-Fi in there. I didn't activate my data. Oh my God, what I do here? And I'm going to try once more. It didn't work in Boston, in Berkeley. I mean, it didn't work for 3 days.
Yeah.
And I said, now it's the moment.
Yeah.
Now it is. Boom.
And it happened.
It happened.
So you kind of like willed it to
yes,
happen. The universe
every time. If I
came
need
together.
a place to park, it's there for me.
So really,
Always.
it's about attitude. I mean, I sense a lot of that from you. That
was
really
going
is
there.
about how you look at the world, is how it's going to reflect back to you.
Yeah, because that's the very definition of happiness.
Yeah,
Happiness is an attitude, nothing but an attitude.
yeah. It can't be a string of only good things happening to you, because I don't think anyone ever gets that 100% of the time.
The things are things. Things and actions and things are actions and things. They don't have any polarity. We give that polarity to things. I don't believe in positivism. It's like the things are the things. We are in charge of that, and we say if it's good or not.
Right,
It's
we give them meaning. As opposed
we
to the
give
other
them
way
meaning. The usual analogy of this rich girl or man, not to be sexist, that has let's say the stereotype of this: the wealthy guy appears and gives a new Mercedes red to his wife, and sweetheart, nice red. Why red? I hate red, but you like red. Your purse is red. Your shoes are red. Yes, but for cars, honey, for cars. I don't like red in cars. And big argument starts. And the fact of him giving her or her giving him, please, it's important to make that clear, loses importance. And they're arguing and having a big arguing because of something that's very clearly positive.
Right.
So the unhappiness is right there. And the other example is somebody that's on the street asking for money, but always smiling. Have you seen those guys? I've seen them many times in New York and in poor countries. They are there. They have nothing. They don't have teeth. They don't have anything. They don't have anything, literally, but they're smiling and they're making jokes. They're smiling all the time.
Yeah.
It's an attitude. It's an attitude.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I think this is brilliant because this really, again, this really kind of hammers home one of the things we try and talk about here on the podcast, which is about the spirit that you bring to your life, the willingness to, we talk about it in terms of being effective and trying to have good habits, because those good habits are, and things that you put out into the world, that energy that you put out into the world, that is how you become happy and satisfied. It's not because those things happen to you and you're passive, just receiving them. It's that you're actively being part of your life. You're actively kind of taking charge of your life, your career, your practice, your rehearsals, whatever it might be, in order to have that happiness, right? That comes from the satisfaction of knowing that you've done what you can do.
Yeah, and it's a steady thing. You don't have to look for happiness. Happiness is not some place you are pointing your life to, because this way life would be really a nightmare. It's like struggling for 50, 60 years, 70 years to find that. Let's say you found it at 80, and you found it. It's if you allow me, it would be very stupid. Mm-hmm. It's like 80 years having a terrible life looking for that, and then you find it, and you live 1 or 2 more years happy, and you die.
Right.
That's not
right.
You need to live. I mean, happiness is something you have to live through now, right now, and this attitude and attitude mostly will allow you to just trespass and get across the walls.
Yeah.
Like the cartoons across the walls.
Yeah.
You will just go whoop.
Right through.
Like the superheroes,
Yep. So it's interesting. You have what I would call a very enlightened attitude towards positivity and towards what happiness means and what it means to be an active part of your life. And you're putting this energy into your life, and that is why you have this satisfaction. Is this something that you've always had? And if not, like what, you're telling a lot of listeners, I think, some great lessons that they could take away, I think, from this interview. If there was one thing that you could go back to your younger self, say at that age 22, or maybe even age 21, right before that, right? What's the one thing that you wish you could go back and tell yourself about a life lesson, I guess, that they could take away?
Oops, that's a hard question, because I know how unprepared I was when I was 21, 20, 19.
We're not always ready to listen at that age.
Well, there's a difference between intelligence and wisdom, and between knowledge and wisdom.
This is one of my favorite sayings right here. Like I've always said the exact same thing, that like intelligence is knowing that smoking is bad for you, and wisdom is taking that and being able to quit because you know it's bad for you.
Yeah, well, yeah, the analogy or I compare mostly. I think the most valid, in my opinion, way to compare wisdom with it is with knowledge, because you can easily confuse both. And I write a lot of poetry and stuff like that. So to make a little resume, first of all, I'm not teaching lessons to nobody, because I'm nobody to teach lessons to anybody. I'm just talking about my experience, and whoever, if it's meaningful to somebody, welcome. That's it.
Right.
I mean, I'm not a guru or something like that. I'm just a musician. But what I can share is that, for example, for me, knowledge is like a cemented path. Cemented, like a freeway, you see, made for many people through the years. So other guys can pass through them.
Right.
It is like many, many people through the centuries and millennia. That's the freeway of humanity. That's knowledge. Wisdom. So others can
Right.
go through it.
Right.
Built from another guy.
As we learn, we're paving that forward.
For them, and the guys that go through that, they accumulate that knowledge.
Right.
You see? wisdom, it is a mind camp. It's a path. It's a land path. I don't know how you call that in English. Is this path that you make them with
like a footpath.
A footpath.
Where you've kind of worn it through the wilderness.
It's built by itself because the people walks through them.
Yeah.
You walk through them, but it's a mine camp.
Yeah.
So you sometimes step on a mine and it explodes. It breaks some. I mean, you have some damage on your toes, whatever.
Right.
Okay, that's not the way. Okay, so you start to build that yourself. So to see what is the right path, you step on another mine, and again, another food. You have to recuperate from the injuries, and you build that path.
Right.
And then you look back. That's wisdom.
Right.
That path, that footpath, that's wisdom. It's different. It's yours.
Right.
And you have to build it through experience, through your own experience, and mostly through your mistakes.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, my mind it's not quite blown, but I'm like the connections that you're making here, I think for our audience, I think are really palpable and I think this is just, it's so much in the spirit of what we try and do here. If you're you talk about this experience and building up this experience, that is the beginning and the development of wisdom. And in your experience, you've been traveling around the world, and part of what you've done, and Adam, I think is an example of this. You have students, friends, contacts that you've made around the world. Is that something that happens randomly? I mean, do you just allow that to happen randomly, or are there certain places where you've like reached out to find people who are maybe of the same mind or the same maybe the same kind of attitudes where you're trying to reach out and tap into a community? How do you develop that set of contacts around the world?
I have to admit that social media has helped a lot. It does. It has a lot of flaws, a lot of problems, a lot of uncertainties, and a lot of gossip, a lot of bad energy. But if you take care of that in a good, that you don't follow and fall into that trend, you stay with what is good in that social media, which is knowing the right people and getting rid of the wrong people for you.
Yes.
Because I say for you, because it might be that you are wrong and not the rest. So that's what I try to do. And things start to happen because I show what I do, and there are always somebody or people that's going to like it. If it's a decent and appropriate work, you will have more followers and more people that supports you. Right. And mostly you never know how many people can be there supporting you. Now I told you I'm coming from Australia. I was in a it was not a concert, it was a clinic and presentation at the EGM distribution, which is a music distributor, and the people, they were invited with a cocktail and stuff like that, and very nice environment. Right. And there were a couple of artists opening for me. And then I went to play my solo thing. About this guitar player with a nice Godin guitar.
Yep.
He told me, "Sir, I've been following your career for 10 years. Would you please," and he handed me a Sharpie, would you make me the honor to sign my Godin here?" Where? What? Where? Wow. It's a Godin, man. It's like a $5,000 guitar. You really want me to? Well, now it's gonna be worth $10,000. He said, No. I think, and he insisted. He said, "No, please do me this honor." So I did have to sign that for him, and he took care of the signature and put some language, and it's gonna stay there forever.
Right.
He's a guitar player, and he said that he's been following me and doing compositions and arrangements based on what I do.
Yeah.
It was like, and he said the word like tribute to you, which is like, oh my God, I don't know, that's too much.
Wow.
And I really, because all of us artists, we have an ego that we have to be looking at every second because it's our worst enemy. So I go, okay. I told, no, the tribute, no, it's not the proper word. He said, yes, it is. Okay. So you never know. That's my point. And his bass player was the same.
How fulfilling is that? Like to
watch
somebody who has been watching you and to have that kind of connection with your music. I mean, that's got to be it has to be a very energizing, but also maybe a little humbling experience, because you realize that these people that you're touching with music are all around the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the better things happen when you don't expect them to happen. I was not, because as I was saying, he had his bass player.
Yeah.
His bass player was absolutely the same. I'm not even telling his story in relation to me because, okay, it's a bass player, Dean Gaudan. But the guitar player, come on, it's like very surprising to me.
Right.
And so this happens quite often. It happens. So I keep that. You see, it's like what else can be better than that? I prefer to earn, let's say, a couple $1,000, $1,000 from a good gig instead of 10,000, and that, let's say 1,000, and that instead of 10,000 and nothing.
10,000 in a suitcase. Have fun.
yes, and no that.
Right.
So
do you know this bass player and the guitarist? I mean, are you still in touch with them? Well,
that much in touch that when I arrived back to Chile, this guitar player is producing, and he sent me the tickets one day after I arrived back to Chile for the International Melbourne Jazz Festival in October.
Yeah.
He's paying my fee, artist fee. He's paying for the tickets. He's producing the whole thing so I can be there both days.
Yeah.
So I got this festival immediately one day after arriving from the same country. So it's very incredible. He was very moved because he liked what I did live, and he liked what I shared with the people also, because as we are talking here, we talked a little bit with people, and I did talk and received questions.
Yeah.
So
when someone comes up to you like that, I imagine this doesn't happen every time, but in some of these occasions, that may be somebody that you're going to keep having a conversation with over time, right? That person might become instrumental in maybe having you back to some other event. There are connections that you can make to developing your reach as an artist into that country or that area of the world. How do you go about handling that type of dimension of artist development, right? So part of artist development is obviously, you're working on yourself, you're working on your compositions, your skills, and so forth. And then there's another side of it, which is also, developing your connection with your fans, getting people to know your music, but also, finding people who may be able to connect you with other opportunities. How do you go about that?
I let it flow. I don't. I try not to manipulate the situations or people. I try not. In certain situations, let's say that crucial emails that you have to send sometimes, that you have to be very careful on how you write them and take your time, because one word can kill you, and another word can bring you to heaven. Just one, I'm telling you, one comma. Of the sentence.
Right.
So you have to be very careful with that. But in general terms, I let it flow. For example, these guys, I was nice with him and with them. All the time I was there with them because I try to be nice with people.
Right.
It's not because I want something back from them. It's just that.
It's just the right way to go through the world.
And people unconsciously feels that. If you are trying to manipulate them, like being excessively nice,
yes,
they are going to notice it either consciously or unconsciously.
Right.
Something is going to be like, not happening.
Right.
And maybe because I'm just any other human being like anybody, I did it like 20 years ago with people, and I learned from my experiences when I did have to hit my head against the walls. But then I understood what, at least I think I understood what is life about mainly, and I focused only on that.
Right.
Absolutely. The rest comes.
It just happens
It just
Right? It
happens.
happens as a result of that positivity.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, it's a great, I think there's a great nugget of information in there for listeners who are thinking about jobs and opportunities. And I think it doesn't matter whether you're talking about touring the world or just trying to get gigs in your own region, that if you see other people as just a means to an end, that things are probably not going to work out, right? That if you have real genuine relations with people, real relationships with people that are just based on mutual happiness of just being able to exchange information and feelings and so forth, that the rest will happen, right? Things will happen as a result of that. And that going into it with an agenda is really not the right
No,
approach.
because I give you an example here, because my student Adam is here. He's been my student for 4 years. Outstanding musician. He's going to make it. And the problem, let's say he pays for the lessons with me. Every month he sends the money. We do the lessons on Skype.
Right.
Let's say he's my source of income for me. That's it. So I'm nice with him because of that.
Right.
So because I want to keep that source of income steady, you see. So this is not gonna work. I mean, he's gonna feel that unconsciously or consciously, and I will pay the price of that. Because I really believe in that. I always say life is. Many people say life is really generous. Life is there. I mean, it's generous. Just go for it. Life is not generous. Life is absolutely is. Instead of being generous, life is fair. It means whatever you give to it, to life is going to give it back to you.
Right.
In the same amount and proportion. Always you will get what you give, or negativity, for example, or positivity is going to get, it's going to return. Life is not going to keep anything from you. It is honest.
Right.
Life is honest, which is the exact translation. And when I say my things, I'm translating them in real time. So life is honest, not fair. It's honest, not generous. Doesn't give anything. So what I'm receiving from Adam now, for example, this experience or what I'm doing here, playing in Fredericksburg and all that, it's a result, and many other things, by the way, it's a result of a honest relation.
Right.
Where he feels I'm not like using him as a steady source of income from him. It's like, because on the very moments where things are complicated, whatever, you notice the reality shows up, and you know the people, the integrity of people on that very moment.
Right. When things get tough, you really find out.
You really find out who is who.
With you.
So, and these moments always come with people. Always, because life is not perfect at all, and there are always flaws on the relations, and things show up, especially in marriages, for example. So it's if you are going very open and clear and not manipulating anybody and being quite positive, reality will show up, and that's why I stay like that, because it always comes back to me. I am so lucky. I am.
Well, I think, I would say you've kind of given the lie to that. I don't think you're lucky. I think that you are getting the honest payback from how you approach the world.
Well,
right? I know you like to say lucky. Lucky is a nice way of saying it, but really you've made your luck, right? And the way you've made that luck is by putting that right attitude out, and so it's coming back to you.
Well, in fact, because if somebody else tells you, especially I recall 20 years ago back in South America, in Chile, when I was not starting because I've been playing bass for 30 years. I'm 22 and 52. But some of my colleagues very nicely told me, the fact is that you are lucky, man. But you understand the charge, the particle charge on that comment.
Right.
And my answer was always, you are totally right. I'm really lucky. And the harder I work, you know where I go. The harder I work, the more effort I put on my activities, the more honest I go, the more blah, 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 blah. The lucky I am, man. That's incredible.
Yeah, the harder you work, the luckier
It's
you
an
get.
ironic answer, but yes.
It's absolutely true. Well, Igor, I can't say how much I've appreciated having you here in the studio. I know Dave also sends his love and appreciation for
Thanks to him as well
being here with us. And I know he was sad he couldn't be here himself. He's actually on vacation with his lovely family, which is well earned. He's also very hard worker, as Adam may have told you, and so we wish him best. And I'm sure he's going to really love hearing this interview once he gets a chance to catch up with it. All right, and so there endeth the interview. I think that was pretty great.
It went well. Our first one.
Yeah, it was like a milestone for us.
I know.
I'm amazed at having like a pretty big name guy in the studio. Like, that really tickled me. The idea of having somebody world famous.
Yeah.
Granted,
it's a gift for our listeners.
Yeah. Let's be honest. It's not like world famous like the Queen or or I don't know who's really super famous now, like Kanye. Sting.
Only Sting.
Okay, yeah. If we're gonna go for bass players, like I think Sting would be a huge win, but I'm not.
Because he's on like Oprah too.
I did invite him.
You did,
but that jerk never emailed me back.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. That never happened.
Did you text him or did you email? Because I think he's more of a text guy.
Is he a text guy? You think he's like instant?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Or Snapchat maybe. Can you call somebody via Snapchat? Can you snap and chat somebody? Do you even chat on Snapchat?
I have no idea.
I'm so old, Dave.
I have no idea.
Old.
You should ask your kids. They'll tell you.
I do. They
I'll
try to.
mine.
Yeah, they try to tell me. They're like, "What's?" Well, anyways,
mine don't even try anymore. That's the thing. Anyway, where were we? Oh, yes, that's right. The end of this lovely interview with Igor. So we so much enjoyed having him here, and it was great having such a distinguished first guest here. And I think as I mentioned back in the first part, this is hopefully not going to be the last interview we do. We have some other ideas for players and also just experts and gurus in their own field who we think will be of interest to you out there, the working bass players. And they'll have lessons to give you that you can use and apply to your practice of being a musician, right? A successful one. So and if you have ideas for other topics you would like us to cover, we are certainly not going to stop doing shows on gear and instruments and components and practice habits and all sorts of other great tidbits of wisdom that we have picked up along our journey and hope to give to you. We are not going to stop doing any of that. And if you have ideas for topics you'd like to hear, you can email us at podcast@practicalbass.com or stop by the practicalbass.com website and give us some feedback. You can also reach us on Facebook, Instagram, Google+, Twitter. Anywhere there's a social, you will find us.
Yep.
There we can be found. So we hope that you will also share this with friends and musicians who want to take their skills to the next level. That is certainly what we aim for here at Practical Bass. And this podcast can be found anywhere podcasts are found. On Apple Podcasts on your iPhone, on iTunes on your macOS device, on Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, on any platform. Simply do a search for Practical Bass, and when the logo comes up, hit subscribe, and you will automatically receive a free copy of each week's episode sent straight to your device. It could not be easier. It literally could not be easier.
It's so easy.
The only way it can be easier is if Dave showed up at your house and brought you the episode himself. Right. And he might do that if you ask nice.
If you're really nice about it, if there's some incentive, I might.
That was mercenary. I liked it though.
Maybe we could do a live audience too.
Yeah, who knows? Things could get wackier here. There is no end to the craziness that could ensue. So, yeah, we'll see what craziness ensues next time here on Practical Base. So until then, I'm Paul Frields.
And I'm Dave Guzman.
This has been Practical Base.
Thanks for listening. Sting.